Hey guys, so figured I was wanting to say some stuff about the new Transformers cartoon, Robots in Disguise 2015, which, not to be confused with a cartoon in the past called Robots in Disguise, nor with the brand in general, whose tagline has frequently been Robots in Disguise. I don't know what goes to their head with naming conventions. But saw the pilot, two-part pilot, plus one episode further, and so I'll offer my thoughts. The TLDR version, I wasn't impressed. I'm not repulsed either, but I'm not impressed. So, get into it briefly. Or maybe in a bit more depth. Okay, I'll give some thoughts on the Transformers series as a whole. I don't like reboots in general. Let me rephrase that. There are reboots I like Batman Begins, but I don't tend to like the idea of rebooting franchises, especially when it's gotten to the point it has here where rebooting practically seems like it's seen by developers as a cool thing to do. Whereas I think it's kind of like a coward's way out. Like, last Spider-Man movie sucked, reboot it, let it go out on a bad note, and start it back up, retelling the sort of stuff people already know everything about. I don't really like that philosophy. I think it's lame. So, coming into this series knowing it was not a reboot, which is actually pretty unusual for Transformers cartoons, that had me interested, and it got my respect, tentatively, because this is not a new continuity. This isn't, for example, in a different continuity than Transformers Prime, in the same way that Transformers Prime was in a different continuity than Transformers Animated, and so on. This is a sequel series to Transformers Prime. No reboot. So that got my respect. But having watched it, I might grudgingly have to concede that maybe Transformers as a franchise needs reboots. Or I won't say it needs reboots because that's selling the whole thing short. But I think it's probably relied on reboots so long to maintain interest that it doesn't do sequel series that well. And what I mean by this, in essence, is that Transformers thrives almost entirely on the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons. They go to Earth, they continue their war there, they fight, the Autobots win, and then, what then? It always presents a bit of a problem because the war lasted millions of our years, so when it's over, it seems like something really big is over, and furthermore, where are we to go from there? Like, we just have robots of an advanced alien race on our planet. They made nice with people, some of them, and once they defeated the mean robots, what are they going to do? They're just going to build a technological utopia on Earth, and then there's not much room for conflict. That's, I think, the big problem this franchise faces. It's always seen as about the Autobots versus the Decepticons in a war, or rather, always seen about Optimus Prime leading the Autobots against Megatron, who's leading the Decepticons. And they fight and they go to Earth, that sort of stuff. This series takes place after Optimus Prime has died and Megatron has reformed in Transformers Prime. So there isn't anything that big at stake anymore. What's going on basically is Bumblebee's a cop now back on Cybertron. He meets a cadet named Strongarm and a petty criminal named, I can't even remember right now. But he hallucinates getting messages from Optimus Prime saying, go back to Earth. So he and the two other Autobots wind up going back to Earth. And sure enough, Decepticon prisoners have escaped there, and they've got to catch them, and so they eventually get confirmed that yes, the ghost of Optimus Prime, or whatever he is, wants them to get together as a team and capture these renegade Decepticons still running around on Earth. So, again, it's really unstructured. We've got a team who don't have a history and are learning to work together, and we've got Decepticons who don't seem to have any major... Fuck, I'm gonna have to get that, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. So we've got an Autobot team that's dysfunctional, which I'm sure is part of the conflict, and we've got this Decepticon team that doesn't really have a strong leadership, is disorganized, can't really offer too much of a big threat to Earth or to the Autobots. It's just the Autobots going and hunting them, and that's an interesting reversal of the Transformers Prime situation, where the Autobots were waging a guerrilla war against the greater Decepticon force. But thus far, it hasn't held my interest. Now, as to the characters, I will say a few things individually on them. One, well, Bumblebee. Thank fuck we're finally over the R2-D2 business. I hated that so much. I hate comprehensible, incomprehensible. I hate the whole bark bark Timmy fell down the well shit. It's so stupid, it's so pointless, really. It's fucking pointless. There's no reason a Transformer should have no voice as opposed to having a voice, and if everyone just translates what he says to them in his stupid beast language, there's even less reason to him not being able to talk. It's just stupid, and I'm glad Bumblebee has a voice again and can talk again. I hope that's coming back into being the standard for the character, because Michael Bay sure screwed him over for a long time. Now, that said, Bumblebee is not that interesting as a team leader. He seems a bit too straight, while at the same time not really commanding respect. In other words, he isn't an interesting character because he's so by the book, but at the same time, he doesn't have the venerable wise status Optimus Prime does. And Optimus Prime isn't even gone in this series. He's still around in some form, looking at the voice of wisdom. So I understand it's going to be about Bumblebee trying to fill those big shoes. But so far, I haven't been interested in seeing him rise to that challenge, and they haven't really played that much on it either. As to Strongarm, she too is straight-laced, slightly less experienced, or maybe a bit less experienced than Bumblebee, but similarly, she's the person who's just trying to stay within the line. The other guy, I'll just call him Red Punk right now, because I don't remember his name. He's red, he's a hoodlum, he's not a Decepticon, but he's not a law-abiding citizen. and he transforms into a sports car. Oh, and there's Grimlock. I like Grimlock, okay? I'm glad Grimlock's back. He's played cool. He doesn't have a whole speak anymore. He does use regular grammar, but he otherwise is Grimlock. He acts like Grimlock. He's macho. He's jolly. He's Grimlock. That's cool. And then there's the humans. There's this kid, I think his name is Rusty. And then there's his father, who's weird. He's got a Hawaiian shirt, cares more about junk than family. They live in a junkyard. They're the new human sidekicks. And I must say, I like the ones in Transformers Prime better. They could be annoying, but they had a presence. So, that's about it for the human sidekicks. There's, finally, the good side, there's Fix-It. I'm not fond of Fix-It. He's a robot, but he doesn't seem like he should be a robot from the Transformers series. He looks like he came from something else. Maybe Sonic Boom, maybe some other Sonic series, maybe some series that isn't primarily about robots, because he looks honestly like a generic robot. He doesn't look like he was designed to be about a series that was so about robots that they went into detail with designing them. He just looks like a generic robot. And his running joke is that his speech processors are damaged, so he bungles up phonetically similar words. Like, instead of alignment, he says assignment, or instead of night, he says not, or instead of boot, he says nuke, that sort of thing. It's not funny, it's not terribly annoying, but it's not funny, and he's basically mission control for the jail ship that crashed. And other than that, he's pretty worthless. I'm not fond of Fix-It. Now we'll get into the Decepticons, who I actually kind of like. They don't... I'll clarify that, because they don't, as I said before, offer much of a threat. They don't fulfill that villain role well. However, I like the designs of them, and I'll say that for this show. I already own Transformers Prime toys, and these are the sort of toys that would make me think I don't really need to get more, because they're good standard Autobots. For example, here's Bumblebee, and he doesn't look too different in this new show. He looks more cartoony, but he's basically the same type of car and the same type of robot. So I don't see a huge reason to buy Robots in Disguise Bumblebee. The Decepticons are another story. They truly do look like a new thing. More importantly, they look... I'll bring this guy. Here's Rat Trap. They look like animals. They look like they were Beast Wars rejects. At least some of them. And again, I'm drawing a blank on their names, but there's one that looks kind of like a Stouter Land crocodile who eats metal. There's one who looks like a shark and talks like the Team Fortress 2 sniper. And there's one who looks like a werewolf and turns into a car, so they're the werewolf as his robot form. And I've heard people saying they don't like this. I kind of do like it. I like the animal look for the Decepticons, and I think I especially like it because we've gone a bit too far in the direction of the only thing you need to depict evil is make it dark and inhuman direction. I feel Michael Bay took the Decepticons way too far in that direction Transformers Prime was a little bit better, but they still continued that theme. Here, the Decepticons are interesting looking again. They look like they were designed to be villains, but that they were also designed to have some individuality and some character traits. And they do have character traits. They've done that bit well. The Decepticons don't feel like they only have evil as their only personality trait. They have different personalities between them that all seem menacing. However, they do in fact seem like individuals. So the show hasn't done too bad on the Decepticons as characters. As villains, they aren't enough of a threat to make the show compelling. They're just sort of villains of the week right now, and that sort of show formula is going to lose my attention rather fast. However, they do have interesting character designs, so from the Cell Toys perspective, they didn't do too bad on that regard. So, thoughts going forward. The show isn't terrible or anything like that. It's Transformers, so you will see robots fighting each other. Oh, something that needs to be addressed though. This show has weird sorry. This show has weird art direction at times. For example, I mentioned that steel-eating Decepticon earlier. Well, in the pilot, there's this big crisis where the Autobots have to chase him because he's going over to eat a human city. And he's running down the road and is about to cross a bridge, which is where the Autobots are confronting him. And the reason I go into detail about that is because in that scene, there are no cars on the bridge at all. There's no cars entering it, there's no cars exiting it, no cars going to the city, no cars coming from the city. There's no cars on that bridge. And I don't know if they did that just because they don't want to have the complication of this steel-eating robot trying to eat cars or be seen by humans, or if they were just lazy. But really, they missed a big opportunity, because it would have been much more fun if it was portrayed as there being a danger of him being seen and of him trying to eat cars with humans in them. They missed a big opportunity to make that bit of the pilot interesting, and it just looks stupid and unrealistic as a result. And I know this isn't exactly a franchise to talk about realistic, but if you're going to depart from reality, as I always say, you need to substitute in something that's more fun. This substituted in something that's less fun. So that's one bit. The other thing is that there's this weird scene in the second non-pilot episode where Strong Arm and the other Red Punk guy get into an argument and they start fighting physically, but their fighting is just like slap, 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 like this, that sort of thing. It looks really dumb. And I mean, fortunately when the Autobots are fighting the Decepticons, it looks better. But I mean, there's no way to justify that sort of fight at any point in series, because I've never seen people engage in that sort of slap, slap, slap fight when they start arguing. If people are going to come to blows, they're really going to come to blows and start grabbing people's hair and stalking them in the jaw and kicking them in the balls, that sort of stuff. There's no this slap, slap, slap fighting. So that just looked really dorky, and it actually got a giggle from me, but I'm not sure it was the sort of giggle they were hoping to get. So that bit was awkward. The fighting with the Decepticons is okay, again, as I said, so it doesn't seem like anything's ever at stake. So, how can this show improve going forward? Well, for one thing, the Decepticons have to organize. The Autobots are organizing into a group filled with growing pains, so they're going to pretty soon be unstoppable. If the Decepticons want to make the show feel like there's something big going down, they need to organize into a group as well. And I've already seen who's obviously going to be their leader. This guy that looks like a werewolf, and I'm really sorry I don't have their names. But that just gives you an indication of how forgettable this show is right now. Second thing, Bumblebee needs to be more interesting. I don't know exactly how we can make him more interesting as a leader, but something has to be done. My thought is that they're going to need to play up the he wants to grow out of Optimus Prime's shadow, or alternately live up to it bit. Because right now it's just been he feels a sense of duty to Optimus Prime, while simultaneously he feels like the senior to other robots. They need to portray him as a guy who's floundering a little bit while trying to do the right thing. And to be fair, this is the guy who stabbed Megatron to death in the last series. The death didn't last, but he stabbed Megatron through the heart as a revenge for taking out his voice box. So obviously, Bumblebee's moved up in the badass ladder, but he still needs to have some sort of personality that makes him appealing as a leader. Because right now, he seems like nothing but the leader. Strongarm and Red Punk, just gonna say it, I have to wonder if they're gonna play a romantic angle. I don't think romance is really that common in Transformers, but I feel like if they were humans or, you know, funny animals, they would have gone the romance angle. Since they're robots, I don't know. As it stands, they're just the sort of, if they're not going to be romantic partners, they're sort of like the Ernie and Bert, I guess. They fight, but they make it work where they need to. Fix it. I don't think it can improve Fix It. I just hope they don't have him too much. The humans, add more of them. We desperately need this to have more people than just this Rusty kid and his father, because with them together, either they prolong the whole distant father-son relationship and try to make it work via the robots, or they bring in new stuff to explore them further. Also, what happened to Rusty's mother? I'm assuming she died, but they don't talk about it. It would be interesting if they did. Maybe they won't, but if they don't, they gotta do other stuff. I think I've covered just about everything I can about this show at this point. It's Transformers, there's Autobots fighting Decepticons, there are others. However, it does feel empty compared to what it could be, and I hope it gets better. I will keep watching. So far, I'm not impressed, but I'm not repulsed. I don't know it's going to get better. It can get better. So, stay tuned, I guess.